Hey everyone, I'm 28 female and I feel like I'm being forced to choose between my happiness and my family. I did not want to be put in this situation, but I feel like I have no other choice. I've been married to my husband, 29 male, for the past 3 years. As our wedding happened right before COVID, my family, mom, stepdad, and stepsister Leah, did not have the opportunity to have a family gathering per se. We were in lockdown in two different states, so after Thanksgiving this year, we were financially stable enough. My family suggested I should go on a weekend visit to the lake with them. My stepdad, who's a real estate agent, has a lake house, and we were going to go there. Growing up, due to the estranged relationship I had with my family, I was not looking forward to hanging out with them. Honestly, I was not in contact with my family before my marriage. Once I moved out when I was 18, I stopped contacting them. But as my husband wanted a full house during the wedding, he insisted I get in touch with the family even though I had my inhibitions. I was forced to get back in touch with them, and when I did so begrudgingly. So the lack of hanging out as a family did not bother me in the slightest. However, once my husband heard about the invitation, he was super excited to go there with my parents, and I agreed with him begrudgingly. While I was at the weekend retreat, I was reminded of the partiality that my family showed towards Leah, and I actively chose not to be a part of all of these social moments when they sat around the fire or by the lake and discussed everything. My husband was a part of that. As we decided to go during a long weekend, we were there from Friday to Sunday. On Saturday night, they were drinking by the fire, and as I am not much of a drinker, I decided to take my exit. The next day, when I woke up, my husband, who was super excited about going with the family, seemed uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable for as long as we were with Leah. Once we had parted ways, my husband seemed much more like himself. I asked him about it, and he did not tell me anything. That led me to believe that something may have happened between them, as Leah had previously done that type of behavior when I was in high school. I assumed that my husband had an affair with Leah, but I tried not to let those intrusive thoughts affect me because if they had truly done something, he would have told me. Since the retreat, my husband was not very comfortable around Leah, which made the whole anxiety worse. Well, 3 days ago, my parents dropped the bombshell on me. They called me and told me that Leah is pregnant, and she told them that it is my husband's baby. So, as a good elder sister, I should divorce my husband and let him marry Leah instead. Hearing that broke my heart, and now that things hit the fan, I decided to confront my husband. He told me that while it is true that they were physically intimate, he did not mean for it to happen. Leah made him drink a lot more than he can tolerate. He's very lightweight, and to a certain extent forced him to be intimate with her. He does not remember much of the night, but he remembered every time he said no and she kept trying to kiss him and then waking up next to her naked. With how everything is laid out in front of me, I do not know how to describe the situation. It feels like an affair, but not an affair at the same time. I'm so overwhelmed and I do not know what I am going to do anymore. Update 1. Since a lot of you wanted to know about my history with Leah, the story started when I was 14 years old. My parents had separated 3 years ago, and since then it was evident that my mother was not very happy with her life. My mother had always attached her self-worth to how much love she was getting from other people, so separating from my father, who she has been with for a very long time, affected her quite a bit. She met my stepdad when I was 14. Their chemistry and attraction were immaculate, and 2 years later they got married. Stepdad moved in with us, and along with him came my stepsister. Leah was barely a year younger than me, and she was everything that I was not. You know how in those teen movies two sisters are completely different? One is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, while the other is a brunette. One is preppy and popular, while the other is a loner. Yeah, well, that was what happened in my life. Leah and I were extremely different. She was the perfect grade student, while I was a mediocre student. As she was so perfect and beautiful and amazing, she highlighted all the flaws I had. She made sure that everyone in the family and outside the family knew that I had a lot of flaws. Everything she did was to spite me. I know it was. Ever since she joined our family, she became the apple of my mom's eye. She was already her father's favorite and then stole my mother from me. I'm not suggesting that I expected my mom to keep her eyes on me 24/7, but I wanted my mom to be involved in my life. After Dad left us, she was all that I had. But Leah made sure to keep her busy. Mom was busy with Leah all the time. Leah needed her mom at her recitals, at her plays, and at her basketball tournament, to the extent that my mom was never there for me. While I am a bit more closed off and I knew that I did not have that many programs for her to attend, it was still a little bit jarring to see my mom simply forget I exist and was there just for Leah. Whenever we had our results, I noticed that the way mom and stepdad treated me was vastly different from how they treated Leah. If Leah scored less, they would excuse her, but if I scored less, it was not accepted at all. In their eyes, as I do not have so many extracurricular activities and hobbies, if I scored a little less, it was a bad thing, and I should be like Leah anyways, because then it would be less embarrassing for my entire family. Understandably, I never got too close to Leah. Owing to how our parents worshipped the ground she walked on, Leah too started behaving that way with me. She was condescending towards me. She was harsh and cruel towards me on an emotional level, which I understood after I moved out of the house. During our high school days, Leah made sure to spread rumors about me, and that caused my bullying to get worse. Since we both used our respective parents' surnames, nobody ever thought that Leah and I were both living under the same roof or were related. It was strange to live with my biggest bully. I felt like I had no way to get peace. This is why, when I got the opportunity to leave the state and move somewhere else, I did. I moved out of the house for the sake of my university. Once I moved out of the house, things were so much better, honestly. I had no intention of ever getting back in touch with the family, and I hate that I was forced to get back in touch with them. And now that all is said and done, you guys can see why I hate everything about my family. My family does not feel like my family anymore, and I feel so lost. As far as my husband is considered, as I have mentioned before, he has insisted several times that he had no intention of having sex with her, and what happened was something he did not have any control over, and he definitely does not want to be stuck with her. While he is saying this, my whole family keeps insisting that I should accept that my marriage is dead and let her have him instead. Since she's carrying his child, it'd be better if they are together, as that would be better for the family they're about to have. Honestly, any advice you guys have would be extremely helpful. Update 2. I hear what you guys are saying. I will refuse the whole divorce thing because honestly, my husband is the victim. Now that I have had the time to process everything with your help, this was not an affair, and my husband should not have to be with someone who has violated his boundaries. I will ask for a paternity test and I will go from there. I'm hoping the result comes out negative. I do not want Leah to bear my husband's child. This is not how I wanted my married life to be, and now everything is spiraling out of control. Update 3. Hey everyone, sorry it took a while to update you guys. A lot has happened and I have been rather emotionally overwhelmed. So I told them about the paternity test and my whole family went off on me saying that this is some bullshit and I should not believe my husband. I should believe Leah instead and everything. I told them that it would be better just to confirm. I still had not mentioned my husband's side of the story. I told them that I want to be there when the DNA report is being read out. I will pay for the paternity test myself, and if my husband is the father, I will consider divorcing him. Leah finally agreed to do a paternity test. However, on the day we were to get the sample from her, she went through a miscarriage under mysterious circumstances. Did the miscarriage take any toll on her? No. Did she look remotely bothered by it? Not really. It was strange how coincidental it was. I have a feeling that she was not pregnant in the first place because By my calculations, she would have been about 4 months in and she would have been showing a little, which she was not. Realizing how far my stepsister was willing to go just to ruin my relationship with my husband was kind of like an eye-opener. I realized that this is not something that I want anything to deal with, and with that, I went no contact with my family again. This time, my husband did not have anything to say against my decision. Since the reality of the situation came to light, I have decided to support my husband with the trauma he went through, and we are going to therapy together. I'm trying to process the emotional baggage I have in me thanks to negligent parents, while he's working on dealing with someone violating his boundaries like that. Despite everything, I must say that this situation brought my husband a lot closer to me, and I am thankful for that. I am hopeful eventually we both will be able to grow and move past this terrible event. Oh, Pete, I can understand the emotions you are feeling. A part of you feels betrayed and feels like this was an affair, but the reality is that your husband is the victim of sexual assault. If he was drunk and was unable to consent, this is sexual assault, and Leah is a terrible human being. I suggest don't bother communicating with them. Ask her for a paternity test and refuse to divorce your husband. If the child is your husband's, you can decide whether you want anything to do with the child or not. But get a paternity test first, just to confirm. And if the test comes out negative, go no contact with the family. Terrible family. If your husband is right, Leah raped him. Take her to court because you do have valid grounds, and if you do not want to, get a paternity test and then go no contact with them if the child is not your husband's. My heart goes out to you. Next story. My family and I were discussing how we want to celebrate Christmas this year at our weekly family dinner. My brother's roommate, 27, male, joins us for dinner every week. In previous years, we've gathered at my parents' house around 8 a.m. to open presents and stay until lunch at 1. I, 24, female, requested that we do something different this year. I have a daughter who's in toddlerhood, and I want to open Santa presents with her at our house. Last year, my daughter and I lived at my parents' house, so obviously it was no big deal, and we did our normal thing. Since we have our own home now, I'd like to open presents with her at my house and asked if we could all gather at 2 p.m. at my parents', do presents, then have dinner at about 5. This way, we're still spending the same amount of time together. It's important to note that this is what we did growing up. My brother, 26 male, and I would spend the morning at our house, and then we would all go to Grandma's for dinner. When I brought this up, my roommate turned to my brother and said, "That doesn't work. I'll be at my parents' house Christmas Eve to Christmas morning." I said, "It doesn't really matter, does it? Also, how does that conflict? If he wants to come, he can. If he doesn't want to come, he just stays at home while my brother comes to celebrate Christmas." My mom extended the invitation for a roommate to join us for Christmas and then later told me that I was being rude. I don't really think so because this is the way it was when I was growing up, and I think it's the way most families do it. I mean, it would be weird to tell my daughter Santa comes to her grandma's house. Edit. I don't believe my brother's roommate is his boyfriend. I'm out as bisexual, and my brother has never told me he was bi or gay and does not act like his roommate is his partner. Edit 2. He was not invited before he made that comment. He's not in the family group chat and wasn't involved in the Secret Santa name drawing. NTA. You haven't done anything wrong in suggesting a different plan. If that doesn't work for your brother and his roommate, possible boyfriend, that's just one of those things. It was kind of your mom to invite the roommate, but you weren't being rude. None of you have been given any indication they would expect or want to spend the afternoon together, and at the slightest hint, your mom was happy to invite the friend. All seems perfectly polite and reasonable. NTA. He shouldn't have given the "that doesn't work" response. He should have let everyone come to a decision and then informed the group that he wouldn't be able to come and let that be that. He's your brother's roommate, not his partner nor family. NTA, you might have been a bit rude in how you expressed it, but not AH for the basic premise. This is not a family member, it's a roommate who has had the benefit of joining family meals in the past. You have a child now. Traditions evolve as families change, and what you have asked for is totally reasonable. A roommate's feelings don't really belong in this equation. Next story. First things first, I'm broke. Anyway, earlier today I got a text from my friend asking me to come with her to the store to buy some Christmas gifts for her family. Both of us don't have a car, so we had to Uber there and back. The cost going was $32 and coming back was $36, so $68 in total. After we got back to her place, she sent me an Apple Pay request charge of $34. I was confused as to why, because she's the one that asked me to come with her. I thought since we didn't plan on going together and because I didn't want to go in the first place, I didn't have to pay for the ride. I mentioned to her, "Why did you send the request?" She said, "Well, we both took the same Uber to go there and come back, so—" I was a bit upset, but I sent her the money anyway. Later, during the night, I told her I was going to order food. My dad made me use his card. I asked her if she wanted anything, but I had asked in a way to make it seem as if I was going to pay, just like, "Hey, I'm going to order food. Want anything?" She said yes. My order was $34.27 and hers was $47.56. With delivery fee and tip, it came up to $92.83 in total. After the food came, she looked over and said, "Thanks so much." I waited until we were both done eating and sent her an Apple Pay request for $53. That includes her meal, half of the delivery fee and half tip. She got very upset with me and told me I was a B word. She was going on and on about how she thought I was going to pay. I don't know. Am I the asshole here? Edit. I'm a student. I understand that I could simply have used the money I had to buy groceries, but that would have been impossible for me. I live in dorm hours away from home. My friend doesn't because her home is 10 minutes away, so I wouldn't have anywhere to cook a proper meal. You might be right. Why didn't I cook at your friend's place? I simply didn't want to do that because her parents weren't there and I didn't want to use their things without permission. My definition of broke is probably different than yours. I have a few bucks in my savings, but that's for college bills that I can't touch. I had no money in my checking account because I had sent her the last of it for Uber. Yes, I understand that the food I ordered was expensive. In my defense, nothing here is cheap. Food is overpriced, and I thought if I order food, that will last me a few days. It was worth it in the end. Second edit. She paid me back. The money was sent back to my dad's account. ESH, LOL, but you know it. Good work. It does sound like she used you to have her transportation paid for, but you knew you were going to trick her. In the future, especially since money is tight, talk about the finances with anybody you are making similar plans with. If it's transportation, food, movies, activities, etc., it will be better for all your friendships in the long run. NTA, she clearly invited you so she could split the Uber ride, which is messed up. She also shouldn't expect someone else to pay for her food. When you go out with friends and they ask you if you want something, you ask them how much it was or ask for the receipt to pay them back. If they said don't worry about it or it's on me, that's when they offer to pay. That person usually pays them back by buying the food next time. You clearly need to talk to your friend and make things clear. If you like hanging out with that person, let that be known, but tell her that you are not in a financially good position. You do like hanging out with her, but if it involves money, to let you know to make sure you can afford it. You could also make an arrangement to buy groceries at the same time, so that way you don't pay for an Uber ride you just accompanied her for. Stay tuned for more stories from Our Girl Relationships.